Hello and welcome to lesson 2 of week 6. In this lesson, we are going to look at how we use the float property to float text around images on a web page. My name is Mildred. In the previous lesson, we looked at different properties that we can use with images to create image gallery, to style and improve the visual effect of images. We are not going to try to work on the visual effects and the presentation of the image, but we are going to work mostly on looking at the float property and what we do when we have image and text that we want to display side by side on a web page. We have this web page with all of these images and we see the text beneath them. But what we want to do is to allow this text to start beside the image all around. What we do is we use a property called the float property. So we'll do this on the image tag, and let's set the max width of this image to be, let's say we want to use 50% or let's say 35% for instance. And we set the height of the image to, let's set a height to make it auto, but I want to make it small, so let's say 100 pixels. We want to also now use, let's put a margin for the right side of the image. So let's say margin right to be 15 pixels, or let's make margin on all sides to be that. So let's say margin, let's make the margin 10 pixels for all sides. And now we want to use the float property. The float will specify left or right or other values that we will discuss in an advanced course. So we put left if we want the image on the left and we want the text to float around it. We put right if we want the image on the right, we want text to float around it. So I want to float this to the left. So the float property is not used for images alone, and as you go deeper you'll see how we apply this float property to control the layout of our web page. When I refresh this and we go to the images, we see that everything is floated to the left and we'll have the text around it with the size we specified. But we don't want it exactly like this. We want it applied to just the first image. So what do? Let's change this style to not be on the image tag, but we want it to be on a particular custom image that we will use. So let's say we want this whole style to be on the image, just the max width and the height, and then we want to have a class, call this class image1, and then we have the margin, and then we have the float. And so when we come to this, we come to the first image and we put the value here to be image1. And when I refresh my page, we're dealing with just the first image, and we have the first one only floated like this. The image at the left, we put a margin around the image so that the text will not just start at the edge of the image and there'll be a space, and then we can see the text floating around the image. But now we have the second image and the text. We need to have something we call the clear property, and if we do not have a clear property, the float will affect the layout of the element or the elements next to the floated element, so that when we use the clear property, we specify what happens to the element that is next to a floating element. So now we have this floating, and we want to have, let's say, a style for image 2, and let's say we want to put image 2 also to float to the left. So let's say image 2 here, and we are floating image 2 left. What is the first thing we do? We want to clear that left. So put clear, and we are clearing left. You can clear both, you can clear right, but we want to clear left. And when I refresh my page now, I will have the second image with the text floated around it. I can change this to float right, so we can have it, the image on the right, and we have the text around it. Like so, you can see how we use float and how we clear what we use. So if I want to do image 3, I will clear my right side. So let's clear both. You can just clear both, and I will set the margin. So since everything has a margin of 10 pixels, let's just add it to the image tag, so we don't add it to every of the custom style. Okay, so here I will float left like this. Then I'll do that same thing here to add the custom style here to be image. And when I refresh now, we will see all 3 images with text floated around them like that. So you see how we have made this like an article that has image and text floated around it. So even when we resize our page, it remains responsive, as you can see, and it remains floating. Alright, so when we look at the advanced course, when we do the media queries, you will understand this even better. We can see that by default image is inline, and we can change the display of the image to be blocked so that it stacks upon themselves instead of continuing on the same line. We can create complex shapes on images, like we see this is square, and let's say if you want to change the display of the image, you can change the display from inline to block by using the display property and setting the value to block like this, and so the image is going to stack on themselves and not exist side by side. We don't want to use that. Let's look at the clip path property. We use the clip path to specify the shape that we want our image. We can make it circle, polygon, and so on, and it cuts out part of the image. Let's say we want the image to be in like a circle, and we want it to be 50% like this. When we refresh our page, you see this will now be circle instead of the square that it was. We can change it to other shapes like a polygon. Let's change it to a polygon. Let's say polygon, and then we specify the percentage for all the sides. So let's say we want 50% and 0%, then we want the next to be 0%, 100%, and then we want 100%, 100%. So this is just an example. You can research the clip. So we see the polygon of the 3 sides we specify, and you can see it cut out part of the image based on what we specify for the 3 sides of this polygon. Alright, you can also change the mouse pointer when hovering around the image. Like now we have our arrow pointer. We can change the, let's say we want cursor property, and we put the value as pointer, and so when we refresh now, when I come here, it's going to be a pointer, not like the arrow anymore. So in recap, we looked at the different properties that we can use to set the layout of an image and also to improve the visual effect. And in this lesson, we looked at the float property and how we can float text around the image. The max width property is one we use to prevent image overflow. We use the object fit to control how the image fits within a container. We use the aspect ratio property to keep consistent proportions. We use the filter property to add visual effects. We use the border radius to add rounded corners, the box shadow to add shadow. We can use transition for smooth animation, and then we use the add media rule to have responsive adjustments of images based on the screen size. So this is where we end this lesson. In the advanced course, you will learn deeper details of transitions and transformations and animations, and also the media query parts, and also go deeper in the topics that we have discussed. Thank you, and see you in the next lesson.